RMJ Movie Reviews back again with an on-the-fly movie review. I had really been wanting to make it out to the movies, and there's nothing playing at the regular theater. So there was a film I had been wanting to see that had flown under the radar. I actually meant to do this for my Black History Month movie reviews, but I'm all behind on those, and I'm kind of still getting them done. So I just decided to go on ahead and push this movie up to now. It's a movie entitled "I Am Not Your Negro," and basically, this film it's a film version of James Baldwin. Um, it's basically he was writing on a book that was supposed to describe the assassination of Malcolm X, Martin Luther King. I'm so sorry, y'all. And a third, who memory escapes me right now, just simply at the fact that I'm tired, so I'm sorry. Medgar Evers. And basically, it talks about the racism that was going on in America from all the way from the late 60s up until early 70s and back. And this movie is basically a film version of what the book, I think it's Remember This House, was to be. Never completed. This movie's heavy. It's very, 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 very extremely heavy. I am only a man of 35 years old, so kind of obviously I was not born in this era, but thank God that I was born in the early 80s, and I'm not quite sure if the children who are children now growing up kind of in the 2000s are as aware of these gentlemen who are talked about in this film. I don't know if they are. When I was still in elementary school, we very much still did watch a lot of clips of the marches down south during the civil rights movements, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Rosa Parks. We still watched all that stuff during the 1980s. We were fully taught in elementary school about the Native Americans. We learned all of that. I don't know if they do that much. It's kind of strange thinking about it. That was during the Ronald Reagan era. But I do remember when I was a kid in the 80s in elementary school, and it just comes to mind, there was a poster, I never forget, that was outside of one of my first grade classes that had Abraham Lincoln, and it had all the slaves in a circle. And Abraham Lincoln had these chains, and he ripped them apart. I will never, ever, ever forget that poster. I was actually telling my father about that poster, but I never forget seeing that poster when I was in elementary school, which this kind of ties into the lies that, in America, that they really want black people to believe. And this film really talks about it goes deeply into just the insidious, sick, and there's a line, a narrated line in this movie, and the film is narrated by Samuel L. Jackson. There's a line in the film, moral apathy, that comes towards us blacks in America. This thing. When I watch all that stuff, when I watch all that footage of just like the cops, utterly just brutalizing people. Brutalizing black people, women. Of course, there's one in particular I remember seeing. The first civil rights footage I remember seeing was the Oprah Winfrey made-for-TV movie, The Women of Brewster's Place. And I think that came out, somebody out there who can quote me who's a little bit older, because I was about in first or second grade when that movie came on regular TV, when it premiered. I think it was a miniseries. But I believe that was 88 or 1989, or it might have been 1990. But it was somewhere in that era when a lot of them TV kind of movies and all that stuff was coming on. But I never forget the beginning clips, I think, in that movie was the guy, you've seen it countless times, where it's where the one brother is fighting the cop. The cop is hitting him with a billy club. He hit him in the head, and brother's just going head up with this dude. He fists against a billy club. And I never forget when I was a child, me and my parents were watching it, and I'll never forget saying, "That's fake." I didn't know any better. I was only 7 or maybe 8 years old, and I just remember their strong reaction. That's real. I mean, like, they shouted at me, and I didn't know as a kid. It was so far beyond my lexicon in my brain that there was a colored bathroom and a white bathroom. And to just see all that footage of, especially down south in Alabama and Mississippi, where, like, you're looking at children who are going into schools and people are smacking them and spitting them and holding up Nazi signs and berating them and degrading them. It, it's just the insidious, sick. And that line in the narration really stuck out to me. Moral apathy. And I just really think that's exactly what it is. You see it all the time. And another line of the narration that I really like is where it's kind of showing clips of, like, John Wayne, and kind of doing the comparison of how, like, you look at John Wayne and Christian characters in these westerns, and they're mowing down Native Americans and shooting them and killing them and brutalizing them, and it's okay for them to do it. But the second a black person sticks up for themselves and wants to get aggressive back and treat somebody else the way you've been treating me, all of a sudden you wrong. You a devil. You aggressive. I mean, it's just how you try to flip it and make us wrong for not wanting to be brutalized. And they try to, at least this is how the documentary lays it out, is how it's the nature, the sick nature of America to make black people try to feel like that it's just like an illusion in our mind, that all this paranoia, all this racism that surrounds us, and that we feel threatened is not true. Is that it's not anything that they do. It's just all in our own minds, and we're free to just live this great life because America is a great place, and we can go anywhere. We're never judged by the color of our skin. You know what I mean? And it just shows how all the things that happen, the brutality, the you can't come into our schools, all that stuff, that they don't want to own responsibility for the moral apathy that they have against us. It's just in our minds that we feel that way, and that we're free to live the best life we want to live, and that it's just us who are holding ourselves back. It's deep, man. It's just so deep. I really love this film. I loved it. I thought it was great. It was almost a part of me. The movies, I think it might have been an hour and a half. Maybe it was a little bit longer. It might have been maybe an hour and 40 minutes, maybe an hour and 42. It wasn't 2 hours. But it was a part of me that really wishes that this movie was longer. It was absolutely outstanding. When I saw even the dichotomy between Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, how Malcolm X, of course, how he was very militant, like, you know what I mean? Look, and I saw they had footage in the movie. It wasn't actually footage; it was photographs from one of Malcolm X was speaking. I assume it was maybe at a mosque or something. They didn't really say, but it was like on the chalkboard, and it said Negro, and then it says equals corpse. I mean, Negro equals corpse. That messed me up, man, when I saw that. I mean, it's horrific and disturbing to see, because of course you see the footages of lynchings and stuff, and people, men and women, being strung up by their necks, necks stretched, which is awful. I mean, moral apathy is really, there's something really deep that he said, because, and there's also spliced in different interviews that Baldwin gave. He was on a Dick Cavett show. Dick Cavett, who was in The Nightmare on Elm Street 3 with Zsa Zsa Gabor. It's just really some really deep, striking things, and just the mindset of of Americans, particularly some white Americans, especially now, and a lot still now, how they feel towards blacks, and it's just like this fearful, hostile, apathetic thing that they have towards black Americans, when it's just like, and the film makes this point, it shows both sides, that it's just like, you hate me, but as much as you hate me and fearful of me, I'm scared of what you gonna do to me, because I'm just trying to live my life, but I feel like I got a target on my head, and I'm just trying to live life, and I can't figure out what you hate me for. And I love the movie ends with a question where he's giving an interview, and he goes, I can't remember exactly what he said. I have to watch it again because it was so much to take in. It was just very heavy. As you know, you got to see movies once or twice again because there's a lot to take in. But I think if I recall what he said in kind of the last part before the movie closed was, I think it was either he said, I don't think of myself as a nigger, or I don't think of myself as a Negro. It was something, I'm paraphrasing, but it's something to the fact of, this is what you all think of me, and you have to ask yourselves, why is it that you feel that way towards me? I'm paraphrasing, that's not exactly, so whoever saw the movie can put correctly what he said. I'm kind of, like I said, but it was something to that fact of like, hey, look, I'm me. I don't think of myself as a Negro or a nigger. I don't think of myself as that. I'm trying to live my life. You're terrorizing me. You feel this way about me. So you have to ask yourself, what is it about me that makes me so damn bad? It was fantastic, man. It was just really, really heavy. I mean, aside from and I really think that's the part that really strikes me as strong. And it, unfortunately, to the point in the movie where they talk about how characters like John Wayne are allowed to be kind of immature. Basically, they don't have to own what they do, but when we do something, we have to own to it, and we're the worst of the worst and all of that. And how all this racism and terror and fear that we have as black people is just a figment of our imagination. That's something that very much is prevalent now. Matter of fact, there was that same interview on the Dick Cavett show. I don't know who the guy was. I think they said his name, but he came on there and he said some crazy stuff, man. And also, the head of the FBI, J. Edgar Hoover, he was a stone cold psychopath. Matter of fact, when I looked in his eyes, he looked just like them psychopath serial killers you see like on the HBO prison specials or something like that. He was a nutcase, man. That dude was a sick, racist psychopath, man. He was crazy. But that man had said something to Baldwin I think he said something to the fact of, I don't see, we shouldn't be, again, I'm paraphrasing. It was something to the fact of, there is no white man and there is no black man. This crazy fool said, I relate more to a black man, and looked at Baldwin and said, well, you relate more to a white author or something like that. I looked at him like, I can't believe this fool had the nerve to say that crazy stuff. But this is the nutty things that, like, they come up with to get us to believe that we're just paranoid, crazy people who these things are just in our minds. Like, they want us to believe like we're paranoid schizophrenics that are hearing things that ain't really going on out here. But that's a way to get you to close your eyes and be that quiet little calm Negro who does not want to throw off the balance, which is for them to be, I run the damn show and you don't say jack, which is just really what it is. That's what it comes down to. But you can really see traces of that now. You know what I mean? I can't think of the countless times. I never forget this job. And look, I'm a black man. I've been dealing with this. The first time I ever got terrorized in my life. I've been terrorized by white police officers my entire life. The first time I ever got terrorized by a white police officer was probably when I was 6 years old. I remember it was in front of my old house when I was a kid, and I had one of my BMX bikes in the 1980s, had training wheels on it. My father got that for me for my birthday. And I remember it was 1986 because my father still has the photo album when he gave me that bike. And a white cop, he looked like Magnum PI. I never forget, he looked like Tom Selleck. He had brown hair and a mustache. He pulled me over from his car. He stuck his arm out the window and he asked me if I had a license for my bike or not. You know, I'm a little kid. I'm 6. I'm just like riding a bike. And I'm like, I don't know what you mean. And he looked at me and he said, well, you know what? I'm going to come back here. And if you don't have a license for your bike, I'm going to take it away from you. And he stared at me. And I never forget, I broke out into tears and I went home to my mother. And I was so like kind of like hysterical and distraught because in elementary school, let's think about this, y'all. In elementary school, they used to teach us that police officers were your friend. It's safety town. Oh, the police officers, they're so nice. They're great guys and all of that. So I was thrown off. I didn't realize what was happening. I remember my mother went, excuse me, y'all, ape shit. I mean, my mother lost her mind. I remember she called the police department. I kind of wish at the time she would have actually took me up to the place and we could have faced the guy face to face. But you know, my mother was hysterical. She was shouting at the I don't know who it was she talked to, but it was one of the police officers who was in charge. But my mother was like shouting at the guy on the phone, and then she gave me the phone and told me to shout at him. It was crazy, man. But and ever since that incident, you know, throughout my entire life, I've always had a fear of white men in uniforms. But, you know, and even to this day, you know, I'm in my mid-30s now. I'm pushing 40. So now I'm at the point now in my life where, you know, I know how to deal with them, you know, and I can kind of feel who feels like they might be, you know, a decent person and who is some racist guy who's on his kick. I mean, it's so sad. I can sit here and name countless situations of being harassed by white police. And then there's other times when I've just been driving too fast and a white police officer gave me a damn ticket. You know, I never forget when me and a friend of mine came back from Canada. We went to Toronto. We came over the border. So this punk, the dude who had to check my car, made us go over into the little station where they got to check your car and all of that stuff. And I'll never forget this punk and his partner, 2 white cops, gonna sit up here and say, he gonna ask me whose car it was. And I'm looking like, can I see your license? And I'm like, bitch, here's my driver's license. Here's, dude, license plate, my driver's license. Run the information. Your little computer has all the information. You'll see my name pop up and you will see my car. The title's in here. Man, I never forget, man, they pulled us out the car, made us pull up our pants and not like strip naked, but like pull up so you could see our kneecaps and all that stuff. Man, those pieces of garbage, man. And then I remember before we left, I was so heated. My friend was just like, don't let him get to you. He was like laughing at him, like trying to make him mad. Like, hey, look, I'm just going to laugh at you because you ain't got nothing on us. We ain't got nothing. Me, I was heated. And I'll never forget, before we left, that cop held his hand out. And I remember I snatched the keys out of his hand. I'm like, well, you ain't going to do nothing about it. I snatched the keys right out of his hand. If I could have, I would have punched him in his face. But as you can see my reaction here, this goes into the case in point. There's even a line of narration in the movie by Samuel L. Jackson. It's like, you know, you treat me in a certain way. You abuse me. You brutalize me. You want to try to make me feel like I'm not garbage. And then if I get upset about it, you say, why are you so angry? You know, and it just shows if you get messed with for a little while longer, I mean, there's going to be some damn resentments that pop out about it. It's a heavy, heavy movie, man. I just really, that narration for me, really, moral apathy. I'm going to give one more example because I'm kind of going way too long. This has already been going on 20 minutes. But when Trayvon Martin got killed, I never forget, I saw someone on YouTube who was talking about how Trayvon Martin's parents were on Dr. Phil. and the mother and the father, did the interview. And it's interesting how I saw a gentleman. This is a white gentleman, and he really, I felt like he was pretty cool. You know what I mean? He really critiqued kind of how he felt about the situation. He wasn't coming from a morally apathetic place, but case in point, I tell you one part that got me was how he said when Trayvon Martin's mother talked, he was like, "Oh, I really felt she was genuine. I really felt she really feels for her son being gone, and I really sympathize with her." Now, then he went on to Trayvon Martin's father, and this is what he said. He goes, "But for some reason, when Trayvon Martin's father spoke, I don't know, I just didn't believe him. I didn't feel like he was really being genuine." This man's son was murdered by a sociopath for no reason than he was going from the damn gas station to get a pack of Skittles. The man is crying on national TV. I've seen the pictures of Trayvon Martin's dead body where that crazy fool shot a hole in his chest and murdered him in cold blood and is sitting around here free. And this guy is looking at a man crying because his son got his freaking chest blown out over some crazy fool. And he goes, "I don't think he's being genuine." But I'm not trying to say the person who said that is evil. That is his opinion. He wasn't putting anything nasty, but it just goes back to the point. Moral apathy, in particular, from America towards black people. Our feelings don't mean jack, and this is what is just presented in the documentary, man. All that to say, that documentary just says that's America. They want us to believe that this is, as Jason Scott Lee said in Dragging the Bruce Lee story, America, the mountain of gold. Nah. And then the movie ends off kind of showing like the recent mass killings in malls and schools. And nah. America is a horror show, man. And this movie just says they want to lie to you and get you to believe, and they want us to just sit up here and smile like everything is okay, so they can do whatever the hell they want to us. Nah, it ain't real. I kind of went on too long with that, but this movie is just so heavy. Listen, thumbs up the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you can see my latest videos that come up. And for those of you who have seen I Am Not Your Negro, leave comments down below about it. Man, I'm picking this up on Blu-ray. It's fantastic. It's fantastic. RMJ Movie Reviews. I'll see you guys soon.